My gay crush and I share the same roof. Terrible too. I know it's a wild accusation, but I firmly believe that my friend Mark is the devil's right-hand man. From when he was still a few months old, he was more active than other kids and got into more trouble as well. The day that had me convinced that he was in league with some evil forces was when he stabbed me in the nose with a lollipop stick. Everyone found it hilarious, and they said that he would be a clever little boy. He did become one and always had a way of getting what he wanted. But despite the sibling rivalry that had been going on for the 8 years, I would still take a bullet for him. So when he came to me, his eyes were watery, and he looked like a sad little puppy. I had to do the brotherly duty and team up with him for the fight. He was playing a game of paintball with some guy, and his brother had joined it, and it had gotten out of hand a long time ago. As soon as I stepped onto the field, I felt a splash. The paint slid down my face. I looked to the source and saw a guy about the same age as me with a mischievous grin. I had been seeing him all day, and we had this competition going on. Seeing him spurred me on to enter the game with more vigor. For what felt like hours, we had a little war going on. Should probably quit, he drawled. Not planning to, I replied. He was my arch nemesis, and I planned to take him down. I was soaked with so much paint, feeling the strain on my back, but I was not ready to give in. In the end, they got the better of us, much to my chagrin. I was very competitive, so I was not pleased with that result. I sulked all the way home, which my mom found very funny. The way you were speaking about this guy, we have to meet him, my mom said. Why? I asked. Well, maybe he could encourage you to actually do your chores. My mom laughed. Yeah, I'm sure if he did chores better than you, then you would actually do them properly. My dad chimed in from the corner. Caden, my little brother, was snickering, which caused me to pull his ear. Mom, Quentin just pulled my ear. He winced. I gave him a look and huffed. That night, my mom's old friend was coming to our place for dinner. She was also coming to drop off her 2 sons. Because they were going on a business conference for a month, this also meant that we would be home alone for all that time, and I was so excited. I know my mom said no parties, I thought. But of course, my response was hearty. Oh, I would never, Mom. When in my head, I was already wondering how many parties I could get away with. Well, imagine my surprise when the 2 sons turned out to be my short-lived nemesis and his little brother. I was horrified, still stewing from that afternoon's loss. I promised myself that I would find a way to get back at him. We got along fairly well, and by the end of the night, I was considering maybe letting it go. My parents left and we were alone, which was nice because the house was big enough for us to keep out of each other's way. My little brother and his were twice the headache, and they kept on asking to go to the Glass Castle, some amusement park 2 hours away. Later that night, I climbed into bed, but I felt something really slimy. I quickly got out of bed and ran out of my room shrieking. I ran into Jason, who laughed his head off when he saw me. He had just pranked me, which meant that our war was definitely only beginning. Everyone laughed at me and said that I had screamed like a girl. I was going to get him for sure. Before going to bed, I went into the kitchen and made a little snack. The next morning, I made cereal for everyone, but his was very special. Thanks, mate, he said in this British accent, which I found annoyingly cute. When did you move here? I asked as I started to eat my cereal. He absent-mindedly tried to get the spoon through the cereal, but it did not budge. The more he kept trying, the redder he became, and eventually, he pushed the cereal away from him. I laughed at him, and he just gave me a weird look, and then he went to the fridge and took 2 eggs, swirled them in a cup, and then drank them. I felt my insides quivering just at the thought of eating eggs. Thank you for the breakfast, Quentin. It was a little too icy for me, he said. Our little brothers were dying of laughter on the floor, and they both agreed that I had gotten the best of him. Well, he started it, I said, and I had to fight back. And so began the prank war. I was not a master prankster, but I had lived with one for 8 years, so I knew how to be devious, and so did he. As soon as I found out later that afternoon, after coming home from playing soccer with my friend Fern, I was desperate for a shower. It was when I was washing my hair that I noticed that the water was turning a bluish-grayish color. My first thought was that it was hair remover, and I felt tears threatening to fall. I quickly ran to the mirror in my room to check, and my hair was blue. I screamed out of anger and frustration, wondering how in the world blue hair dye had ended up in my hair. I thought that maybe Mark had been messing around as usual. When everyone saw me, they started laughing their heads off. Hey, Smurf. John winked. Oh, eat rocks. I glared at him. His eyes shimmered with mischief, and I could not help but find it intriguing, to be honest. He brought out a fiery side of me, and I liked it. Annoying him whenever we would pass each other, we would bicker nearly every time. We could never agree on anything, except when it came to the rascals that were our brothers. I was a bit curious about my sexuality. I did not like girls in that way, and I thought that it was most likely because I had not met the right one yet. But the thing was, my first kiss was with a guy, and he was the only person I liked, even though it was brief. So even though Mark annoyed me and was always pranking me, I found myself growing to like him as time went on. "I think it looks great with your eyes," he said. I found myself blushing ridiculously when he said that, and I instantly kicked myself in the mind. It was a childish rivalry. We did not hate each other, but we were both too stubborn to let go of the prank war. After drying my hair, I went and did him a favor by washing his clothes. It was mostly the white ones that I was interested in. Later on, I found him walking around wearing various shades of blue. "Face Smurf?" I winked. He laughed, but I could see that it was a challenge, and he wanted to get the best of me. The only reason we were even in this was that he started it, but I was going to end it. We were so focused on each other that we did not pay heed to what the two kids were up to. It was only when I noticed that the money in the piggy bank that was only for emergencies was much less that I got suspicious. "Jason," I called out, "I'm not coming in there. I bet you have a bucket of water that you want to dump on me," he shouted from upstairs. Well, it's not like the thought hadn't crossed my mind, but that's not the reason why I wanted to see him. I thought, "Chill out, scaredy cat," I yelled. "Have you seen Caden and Jacob?" I asked. "Nope. Aren't they playing outside?" he asked as he entered the room. He did not have his shirt on, and I found my eyes sliding down. He caught me and grinned. "You know, if you wanted to gawk at me, you could have just asked. You don't have to make the excuse of the kids." He stepped closer to me. I knew that he liked guys. He had told me when we were getting to know each other and not playing pranks. My heart suddenly started beating too fast, and I could not remember what I was even saying. "Why are you suddenly so silent?" he asked. But I said, "Oh, I'm hot." He got close to me and touched me. I had to shake my head to focus. He made my mind spin, but now he was taking control of my body, and I did not like that. I was enjoying it. "It's hot," I mumbled. "Maybe they went to the pool," I suggested. "Chill out, dirty mind." I rolled my eyes and pushed him away from me. I went to get some water from the fridge, but I could feel his gaze on me. He was making me so confused. The two little rascals finally came into the house much later on, and I made my way over to shout at them and ask about the money that was missing. Then I heard the diabolical little ones plotting. "I cannot believe that we managed to go to the glass castle twice now," Caden said. "Thanks to your plan of putting that slimy thing in Quentin's bed." Jacob laughed. Wait, so Jacob had not started the prank war. They had donuts so that they could get to the Glass Castle theme park. I pretended as if I did not hear them. Then I went to him and quickly filled him in on what I had found out. "Brothers are the worst," he sighed. "I know, so truce," I asked. "Yeah, sure," he hugged me, and I started to feel those little butterflies in my tummy that I could not explain. We decided to play one last prank on the two rascals as payback. We pretended to still be mad at each other over the pranks while secretly plotting. Those two really needed to be taught a lesson after the stunts that they pulled, but that was now at the back of my mind. Because now we're spending more time with Jason, and I could not help feeling a pull towards him. That night, we started to get to work on our prank on the little rascals. When we were done, we had some ice cream while talking. He told me about his life and how his parents wanted to move to a house close by in a few months. "You know, we make a great team," I said. "Yeah, you bring out my competitive side," he laughed. We suddenly locked eyes and stared at each other without saying a word. Then I found myself leaning in closer, and our lips touched. We kissed for a while, and it was the best kiss that I had ever had. "I've been wanting to do that for a long time," he said. "How long?" I asked. "Since I shot you with the paintball gun," he said. Any way of flirting. I rolled my eyes. He loved it though. "You know you like that? I keep you on your toes," he smirked. I started looking around as soon as he said that. "What's up?" he asked. "I'm looking for a mirror to show you how big your head is getting," I said. He laughed and brought me closer. The next morning, we planned on going out for some snacks. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the first scream followed by the second one. I doubled over and laughed for what felt like ages. You know when you laugh so hard it hurts? That's how I was feeling. Jason came over to the room with a smirk on his face. "Well, it looks like they will not be touching that piggy bank again," he laughed. "What?" We had put pictures of eyes inside the cabinet where the piggy bank was. It was the freakiest thing ever, but they were so scared. "Yeah. Let me see you sneaking out to the glass castle again," I said. "You want to get me in trouble with your mom and dad?" I asked them. They both shook their heads and looked down. "Yeah, who told you you could use the public transport alone?" he asked. "Or that you can make us prank each other?" I added. "Sorry, Jason and Quentin," they both said, looking down in shame. Things settled down after that. Well, for a few hours, those kids had zero chill and would run around the house the whole day, leading us to having headaches. So we would sneak into either of our rooms and hang out. We hung out most of the time, but the rest of the time we spent bonding in many different ways. My hair was still blue because I liked it, and he shared most of my clothes because all he had was blue stuff. Even though the prank stopped, it did not mean that we had stopped being silly. We were constantly winding each other up and getting up to no good. With him, I felt more for him every day. It was a bit bizarre to be coming to terms with my sexuality, but he made it so much easier for me. And it would not be a summer without a party, right? A few days before our parents came back, we decided to get some friends over. This was going to be the first time they saw me with a guy. I was not worried about them because not even one of them was homophobic. The party did not get very wild because we had kids in the house, so we helped each other clean up once everyone left. A few days later, my parents came back home along with his. My mom was the first one to observe that things were different between us. "See, I told you that you had met your match," she said. "And why is your hair blue?" she asked. "Well, we had a prank war, and maybe I have," I said before thinking. "You had a what in my house?" "Oh, and they had a party with so many people," my mom exclaimed. "My rascal of a brother snitched on me, and that was after eating the candy I gave him to bribe them." That child had no honor. Her eyes got really scary, and then she started reaching for her shoe. I ran away from her room and felt a slipper follow me. I made my way to his room and bumped into him, causing us to land in the heap. We looked at each other and immediately understood that Jacob had ratted him out too, probably as revenge for the prank. Well, the war was never over in the house after our mother stopped trying to kill us, and we explained that it was just a little get-together. I finally got the chance to tell them about our relationship. They were surprised but very accepting of us. "Well, at least you're now in a relationship. I was afraid that Caden would get into one before you did," my mom said. Everyone, including my boyfriend, laughed at my expense, but I was not mad about it. "Now, I know why Jason kept asking when we were moving here," Jason's dad said. "Well, I hope you were sleeping in separate rooms," my dad said. "Oh my God." I was embarrassed at the mention of intimacy. I was not yet ready and still a virgin at 18. "What? We know that you're gonna want to," he continued. I closed my ears with my hands and started humming. Not one in my family was sane. We had dinner with his parents because they were heading back the next day. They would only start moving in a few weeks, which meant that I would have to be apart from him. I was sad, but I knew it would not be for long. "Let me go and fetch the dessert," my mom said. "Oh, do not worry, we will do it." I exchanged a look with Jason. He smirked and he got up with me. My mom made a dessert that needed to be put in the cups, which was very delicious. We got to work with making it extra special for our brothers. Then we went to serve everyone. "Allison, I always ask you what the recipe is, but you never tell me," Jason's mom said. Everyone said it tasted good, but our brothers did not think so. They were both looking very pale, and then they were out of their stools and racing for the bathroom. A few seconds later, we had put eggs in their cups instead of the dessert. As revenge for them snitching, we wanted to snitch back about them sneaking out, but that would get us in trouble too. Later that night, he sneaked into my room, and we cuddled. "You, my dear, are a genius," he said as he brought me in for a kiss. We were a deadly combination together, and I fell more for him every single day, all thanks to those little rascals. Well, they do take sibling and friendship rivalry to the next level. Have you ever pranked your siblings, and how much trouble did you land in? Don't forget to subscribe, and comment so you can keep enjoying these wholesome stories. Bye. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our rainbow forest and stay wholesome.